Hi, welcome to this video. I'd like today to talk about facts on fruit flies. In this video, I'd like to talk about facts on fruit flies infesting mangoes in West Africa, in the special case of the Gambia. As an outline, here I'd like to talk about first the context, and then I will give the definition of a quarantaine pest, and then I will talk about the problematic. And after that, I will cover the biology of fruit flies, in which some part will be dedicated to taxonomy, another one to host plant, to damages, to key features of the main genera that are causing a lot of damage in West Africa, but also I will cover the life cycle. As last point, I'll be talking about how to detect infested fruits. Now, with respect to the context, we all know that mango is one of the most important fruits in West Africa in terms of income for rural areas. It is the leading export fruit towards Europe since the beginning of this 21st century. The production has expanded for years, but also we have seen that we were also experiencing a lot of damages due to pests and diseases. With respect to diseases, we know that the most important disease that we have on mango are due to fungi. Like here, we can see that some mango here are showing some symptoms of anthracnose. Anthracnose is really very frequent when it is moist, and in the dry season, what we see is stem end rot. But also we have alternaria, which make some spots. We also have during this dry season also some aspergillus, like here Aspergillus niger, spoiling some mangoes. Now, with respect to the pests, the dominant ones are fruit flies that are quarantine pests. And here in the two photographs, you can see some female here puncturing the fruit to lay eggs. And when these fruits are kept, for ripening for several days, when we cut them, what we see is that the spoil, the flesh softens, and we see some galleries, and sometimes we also see some maggot inside. Now, what is a quarantaine pest? By definition, a quarantaine pest is a pest of potential economic importance to the area endangered, thereby and not yet present there, or present but not widely distributed and being officially controlled. Now, the fruit flies are quarantine pests, and the European Union is moving towards protecting its territory. One of the regulations that they have taken that also was put in full application by December 14th was the regulation EU 2016-2031 that poses some obligation also to emerge for the third countries, and with respect to some pests, but also some crops and their combination. And likewise here for us, we consider fruit flies and mangoes, and for them, if we want to access the European Union for fruits or crops that are susceptible to fruit flies, we need to consider one of these four options, or if we can afford to have four of them, why not? But if you look at the tree, it is freedom of. It is either a country, a place, or a site. I think in our countries we don't have it. But if you look at the first option, we can see that we could use a systems approach or have an effective post-harvest treatment. And since we don't have the effective post-harvest treatment, we use a system approach to access the European market. And it is also really draw our attention in the fact that when we fill our phytosanitary certificate, that we have to mention the relevant text on the additional declaration. As a consequence, for our countries being infested by fruit flies that are current quarantine pests, Our production costs are rising. There are a lot of phytosanitary requirements for our products. There is a decrease in the quantity of mangoes that we are exporting. Our export window is shortening, and we are having less income from this business, and also the attractivity of our products is also decreasing. When we experience some interceptions, then really we become really very sad, because we feel that our reputation is being taken under, and also the effort that we put, to produce all those fruits, is those efforts are ruined. Now, what is recommended for us is to have an adequate inspection and certification system that goes from the field throughout, to the exit point. And for that to happen, we need very well trained staff for the NPO as well as for the private sector. We need also a reliable system for traceability. And also we have to keep in mind that electronic certification is also a trend that maybe is gaining the whole world. With respect to the biology of fruit flies, when talking about the taxonomy, I like to say that the fruit flies are insects. They belong to the order of Diptera in the family of Tetratidae. The two main genera that are causing a lot of damage in our countries are Bactrocera and Ceratitis. Now, with respect to the host plants, we have to mention that the fruit flies are really polyphagous insects. They have more than 300 plant species that they infest. And with respect to Bactrocella, if we look at the host range, we can see that mango and guava from tropical areas are attacked, but also apple and peach from temperate climate are also infested. With respect to the importance of the damages of fruit flies, by onset of the harvest season in the dry season, most of the time the damages are around 10% or less. But as the rainy season takes over, the damages increase, and sometimes they can reach 80% in average. But in special sites, sometimes it can go up to 100% of the mangoes. Varietal resistance is mentioned, but we don't have evidence on that. Now, if you look at the diversity of fruit flies that we catch in our countries, we see that most of the catches are made of Bactrocera dorsalis, 82.5%. If we take the population of Ceratitis, we have different species: Quasira, Capitata, Fasciventris, Ditissima, and Bremi, and there are some others in different places. We see that they make up to more or less 17%. If you add the two together, we have 99.3% of the whole population, leaving the rest of the Tetratidae, the 0.7% of the population. Now, if we look at key figures, to distinguish Bactrocera from Ceratitis, let's look at the scutellum. We see for the Bactrocera, at the scutellum, we have a triangle which is yellow. And if we look at the Ceratitis, we have some black dots that are there instead of having the yellow triangle. Now, for the life cycle, let's mention that we have two stages: the egg, the larvae, the pupae, and the adult. The egg is very small. It's like a grain of rice, but it is either smaller. And when it hatches, it gives a larvae, the L1 larvae, but it goes during the development. The larvae goes through L1 to L3 by passing through L2, and at the end of L3, it emerges from the fruit and drop on the ground where it's gonna pupate. In this slide, we summarize the life cycle of the fruit fly in our laboratory. And here you can see that going from the winged adult insect, the fly, it lay eggs, and the eggs hatch to give a larva here, a maggot, which consume the flesh of the fruits, whereby rottening the whole flesh. And at the end of L3, it emerges from the fruit and pupate in the soil. And here the pupae are, those small things that we put on the petri dish. And when we keep them for 15 days, from the pupae emerge some adults that take several days to become sexually mature. And the cycle takes from 15 to 30 days, meaning that during the harvest season, the rainy season mainly, the fruit fly can have a lot of cycle. Now, how to detect infested fruits? When they are freshly punctured, what we see is some sap exuding from the puncture points. You can see them on both photographs. And the right one, we can see many, and at the same time 2 females of fruit flies also laying eggs. When these puncture points are 3 to 4 days old, sometimes the trace of the sap is not to be seen, but we can, if you look very carefully, you can see the puncture points where some scar could be seen, but also in sometimes it is some temperature point for rotting of the fruit. Now, in the field, we need to be really very good observer to recognize those puncture points, because it is critical. It is really very, very important. We have to observe very carefully and not really rush, because here it is about quality and more than quality, because we are talking about quarantine insects. If I am observing a fruit and I am not sure if it is punctured or not, I mean, in the name of the precautionary principle, I will discard it to not to take a chance for it to have some larvae. And what I could do later is to cut it and then check if it has some maggots or not. This will add some experience to me. And when we have one just punctured mango, it will have a lot of maggot. Each maggot will give a pupae, which will in turn give an adult. And that's why it is important not to allow any infested fruit to go through the chain. It's very important. And we also know that those infested fruit are not consumed. They are not suitable for that. And since also they are sent very far away, if they are not detected, they will be the vehicle for the infestation of new areas or new countries, new parts of the world. I thank you for following.